CBS News Bay Area Afternoon Edition with Ann Makovic.
Thanks for joining us this Monday. A frustrating morning for BART riders dealing with yet another service disruption. This time an equipment malfunction shut down both the red and green lines for most of the morning. Good news is that they're both now back up and running, but there are some residual delays. Our Veronica Macias caught up with riders at MacArthur Station.
Now that service has been restored with BART, wait times have been reduced from 20 to 10 minutes. It was the red and the green line that saw a disruption. BART saying that it was a malfunction with a switch at the West Oakland station. Here at the MacArthur station, trains have been coming by and people here have been able to transfer. For example, someone who regularly rides the red going from Richmond to, say, Millbrae, you would have to take the orange, transfer at MacArthur, and take the yellow. So this morning we found a lot of people that were filling the platform, attentive to what trains were coming through and listening to the overhead speaker for instructions. Of course, many people by this time are used to the repeated outages and disruptions with BART and have learned how to just roll with the problems for the transit system. 3 days ago, we saw a disruption in service with the green and the orange lines, and we know these disruptions can also cause a major headache for people early in the morning trying to get to work, or worse, trying to catch a flight, which was the case for a group of students from UC Berkeley.
We really have a flight to catch at 9 a.m. and we're worried we won't make it at this point. But yeah, I just hope security clears us out fast and we end up getting on that plane because we're just going on a vacation for like 4 days to San Diego and we're really excited for it and don't want to miss it.
Well, today's outage only impacted the red and the green line. System-wide, people saw a 20-minute delay. Many frustrated riders on trains this morning, and we've heard people voice concerns. Despite that, ridership with BART has increased by 10% in the month of October this year compared to last.
Well, today's incident follows another BART meltdown just this past Friday morning. And in that case, it was because of vandalism. BART says someone cut fiber lines, shutting down service for much of the day between the South Hayward and Berryessa stations. Allegations that women inmates were subjected to a humiliating strip search at the San Francisco jail today. The public defender's office joined activists to demand changes. They filed a new claim with the city that alleges deputies forced at least 19 women in the jail to strip in front of male deputies while their body cameras were on. The alleged strip search happened back in May. Leaders say it is a violation of state policy and of basic human dignity.
These are sisters, these are aunties, these are human beings that were forced to stand exposed, humiliated, and violated. This is not justice, this is violence.
Well, advocates say these are women still awaiting trial who have not even been convicted. They're calling for the immediate suspension of all deputies and supervisors involved and the release of all alleged victims to protect their safety. The city attorney's office says it is reviewing the claims. And the San Francisco Sheriff's Office says it is aware of the allegations and in a statement wrote the conduct described is deeply concerning and does not reflect the policies, procedures, or professional standards we require of our staff. It went on to say that appropriate personnel action was taken. Search and recovery efforts are resuming today for a man who was swept into the ocean at a Monterey County beach, the same spot where a father and daughter died days earlier. That latest incident happened Saturday afternoon at Soberanes Point, 9 miles south of Carmel on the Big Sur coastline. The Monterey County Sheriff's Office says 3 people, 2 women and 1 man, were swept off the rocks and into the ocean. The 2 women were able to get out safely. They were taken to the hospital, but the man did not resurface. This happened about a week after a Canadian man and his 7-year-old daughter drowned in the same area after being swept away by a 15 to 20-foot wave. There is a risk of sneaker waves and dangerous rip currents along the Bay Area coast through tonight. All right, speaking of, taking a quick check on our weather forecast right now, looking at mild conditions this Thanksgiving week as we take a live look inland. Let's bring in meteorologist Jessica Birch.
All right, well, we were under that dense fog advisory this morning over into Solano County. That was grouped up with our friends over into the Sacramento Valley too, but things are looking a little bit better now as we head out the door. Daytime highs today, nice and cool. Let's zoom all the way over into the East Bay real fast, because really what I want to focus on is the fact that our daytime highs all throughout the Bay Area are pretty much hand in hand, but that puts us a lot cooler in places like Concord, Vallejo, Napa, and all the way off into Antioch too. Now over into San Francisco, this is a little bit more typical for this time of year, 60s and 50s along the coastline. And speaking of the coast real fast, we are still dealing with that beach hazard statement issued by the National Weather Service for all the highlighted zones and counties on this map. This includes places like Half Moon Bay, Pacifica, Ocean Beach stretched all the way up past the Golden Gate Bridge into Stinson Beach and Bodega Bay too. We have rip currents and sneaker waves today. It's a very important day to make sure that the dog is on a leash, that no one's heading into the water, and things are going to look a little bit different later this week, which is good news for anyone who wants to get out there, surfers included. But for now, I'm going to send it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Jess. The weather is looking pretty good for Bay Area passengers kicking off their holiday travel. So far, things seem to be running pretty smoothly for the start of Thanksgiving week. We spoke to travelers at Oakland Airport last night who said they are having a pleasant experience.
Traveling from here to there was better than traveling like anywhere else. It was so short, the commute was so good. It was like a 30-minute commute, 45-minute commute. But overall, it was a very easy way to navigate.
We had flown like a month ago from Europe, and it was really crazy. But this flight today was really quick and easy.
Oakland Airport expects almost 250,000 passengers to pass through in the stretch that ends Sunday. Air traffic schedules are now back to normal after the FAA lifted its mandatory flight cuts with the end of the government shutdown. A federal judge has dismissed criminal cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. The judge found that Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor who brought the charges at President Trump's request, was illegally appointed by the Justice Department. The ruling halts, for now, prosecutions that targeted those two high-profile political opponents of the president. Trump has been calling for Comey's prosecution for years. Comey oversaw an alleged investigation on Russian influence on Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Today's order does not concern the substance of the allegations against Comey or James, who you see here. The Justice Department is likely to appeal. U.S. and Ukrainian officials say they have made progress in talks to end the war with Russia. President Trump has a 28-point plan that he says could end the war, but it would mean making some concessions that Ukraine is not willing to consider. Natalie Brand has more from the White House.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky calls it a critical moment after a weekend of negotiations with the U.S. on steps to end Russia's war on his country.
It is crucial to support the principles on which Europe stands, that borders cannot be changed by force, that war criminals must not escape justice, and that the aggressor must pay fully for the war he started.
In comments Monday, Zelensky indicated territory remains a sticking point. The U.S. and Ukraine say they're working to update the administration's original draft 28-point peace plan. That proposal called for Ukraine to give up territory, cap the size of its military, and swear off NATO membership. Critics say it included many of Moscow's longstanding demands.
It is essentially the wish list of the Russians.
CBS News has learned the White House is discussing plans to possibly bring Ukraine's president to the U.S. this week. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be privately meeting with President Trump today after reporting progress in those weekend talks.
We're working through making some changes, some adjustments, in the hopes of furthering narrowing the differences and getting closer to something that both Ukraine and obviously the United States are very comfortable with.
A joint statement released by the administration following the U.S.-Ukrainian meeting said they reaffirmed any future agreement must fully uphold Ukraine's sovereignty. As fighting continues, Russia's military released video claiming to show the capture of 3 new Ukrainian villages along the eastern front.
And CBS News has learned that President Trump spoke with Chinese President Xi Jinping this morning about the latest developments with Russia and Ukraine and a variety of other issues, including scheduling a state visit to Beijing. President Trump announced that he accepted an invitation for April. The president also said that he invited Xi Jinping to visit the U.S. later next year. This call came about 1 month after the two leaders met in South Korea. Still ahead here at noon and streaming on CBS News Bay Area, some new concern that federal cuts could cause many in the Bay Area to lose access to housing. What local leaders are doing about it. And let's take another live look outside before we head to break. Sun shining over the city of San Francisco. We'll be right back. Well, concerns about money for housing in the South Bay. Today, Congressman Sam Liccardo joined local leaders in San Jose to sound the alarm after the Trump administration's decision to slash funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The cuts target permanent supportive housing services, and officials warn an estimated 2,000 people in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties could be pushed out of stable housing. One woman told her story about her family getting displaced after unexpectedly losing work.
Our family went through being pregnant while homeless, and then our son went through his first year of being alive while homeless. I feel amazing being here today and having the honor of getting to move into such a beautiful building and giving our son a chance to never have to know what it's like to be homeless.
To tackle homelessness.
Congressman Liccardo sent a letter to the HUD secretary demanding answers on why the funding was cut and what the department is doing to ensure no one is forced back into the streets. 170,000 people nationally are at risk of losing their homes. All right, back to our first alert weather now. Taking another live look outside. Gorgeous shot there above the city. Ferris wheel in the upper left-hand corner. And it looks like a nice day if you want to take that for a spin. Literally. Have you ever done that, Jess?
Not yet, but I do know it came from the Golden Gate Park
yes.
and then it moved over to the marina later, or North Beach later. I want to talk about some things going on for us, though, this week. It is the holiday travel week we have all been hopefully looking forward to, but of course I know travel can get hectic. The good news is, as we take a look at forecast all throughout this week, we're dealing with calm conditions here in the Bay Area, which is great news. I can't say that's the case across the country, but back here in the Bay, if you're just hitting the roads, things are looking dry, mild, a little chilly, I will say. I mean, our daytime highs all throughout the Bay Area today are either in the upper 50s or lower 60s. Some of our microclimates, that shows below normal conditions. But the reality is, heading into this week's forecast, it's dry, and that was not the case the past 2 weeks. So good news there. Dry conditions means no weather delays at the airports either, at least when it comes to our Bay Area airports. Now, along the coast, I highlighted it in blue. That's that beach hazard statement issued by the National Weather Service. For anybody who was thinking of heading out to the coast today or getting in the water, not the day to do so. We're still dealing with sneaker waves and rip currents. We're going to continue to keep a close eye on those beach hazard conditions into the evening hours tonight. Now, like I mentioned a second ago, heading into this week's forecast, it's going to be nice and dry. Not a drop of rain in store for us. Yes, cloudy conditions, of course, but as we head into the next 7 days, at least as you're heading out there on the roads, there's no slick conditions, just lots of traffic. Inevitably, though, it's Thanksgiving week, and Thanksgiving is looking beautiful. Thursday, we're holding on tight to low 60s throughout the Bay, including our coastal communities and including, believe it or not, our inland spots too. Daytime highs don't really waver too much when we're talking about our inland spots or along the Bay as we head into the next 7 days. This is the time of year where we all kind of come hand in hand, either upper 50s like Wednesday, low 60s like Thursday, partly cloudy skies each day, similar to what you're seeing outside right now. Some of us are experiencing some nice sunshine, some of us seeing those clouds off in the distance, just breezing through. I'll have more on that coming up in a bit, but for now, I'm going to send it back over to you, Ann.
All right, a little bit of basketball news for you. The Dallas Wings are going to have the number one pick for the WNBA draft for the second year in a row. So the team had the best odds, apparently, to land the top pick with a cumulative win-loss record of 19-65. The Lynx will come in second, and the Storm will pick third. As for the Golden State Valkyries, they have the 8th pick. The draft is happening April 13th. But we all know that living in California is very expensive, and many Bay Area families struggle to make ends meet. We're getting a closer look at what food benefits mean for people who rely on them to survive. We spent the day with two people who live in San Jose who have to precisely calculate each grocery trip. These women had been unhoused before, and now they're sharing the daily work of stretching food benefits to survive.
No juices on sale. No. We plan a meal, one meal a week that is meat-based. Yeah. 2 dinners for $3.64. Inflation's going sky high, and you can't stretch out a meal like you used to. 60-25, 60 go your eye.
Well, watch KPIX this evening at 5 p.m. and CBS News Bay Area. We're going to have Glenn Ramirez and his full story on these women and how they make it all work. Meantime, we invite you to join us in helping our community. You can scan the QR code on your screen to find out how to donate or volunteer at our local food banks. You can also head to our website, kpix.com/give. Still ahead here on the afternoon edition and streaming on CBS News Bay Area, an Idaho family is reunited with their lost cat who showed up in San Francisco. We're going to meet this adventurous feline and get the backstory here when we return. A family in Idaho is celebrating really what seems like a miracle. It's also a major mystery. Their lost cat was found hundreds of miles away in San Francisco. This is Pepper. She was an indoor cat in Idaho who got out of the house and then disappeared in October. Well, earlier this month, somebody found her wandering in San Francisco's Mission Bay and brought her to Animal Care and Control. They scanned her microchip and called her owners. They couldn't believe it. Pepper's family drove down from Idaho for the happy reunion. And we're hearing they had just lost their dog the day before they got this call. So pretty amazing. That is going to do it for the afternoon edition.